Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jimmy Good, and joining me, as always, is my go-to podcast compadre, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how's it going?
I'm pretty good, pal. How you doing?
Doing pretty well here today. So, Joe, we got some things on the docket here, but before we get to all of that good stuff, Joe, do you like Spawn? Do you know the character of Spawn?
I do. I kind of like it just because of limitless abilities and all that cool stuff. But other than that, it's like he creeped me out because that was around when I was younger, and he's kind of creepy. And the big clown thing that turns into a giant monster. Yeah.
I was looking for a yes or no. These are yes or no answers.
Sorry,
but that's okay.
Yeah, he's cool.
How about Dante's Inferno, Joe? Ever heard of it?
The book?
Yeah, just
No.
like it's a man whose wife dies and he has to go through all of hell to get her back.
Oh,
but
okay,
if you like all those types of things, and if you like Darksiders, then you will definitely love our first exclusive Jorn Evers comic called Hellmates. Now, you might know Jorn Evers' work here on the channel. You're looking at a picture that he has done, but exclusively for our listeners, about a few days before he's going to release it upon the world, is his first comic that he did all by himself.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dang good, wouldn't you say, Joe?
Really stinking good. I got a chance to page through it a little bit before we scheduled the podcast here, and it was good, and the artwork is absolutely stunning, so good stuff.
I expect nothing less from him nowadays.
Yeah.
He's set the bar really high for himself. So, Jorn, if I had one complaint, it's that I don't know where you're going to go from here, pal. Because it's like, what are you going to do? But I'm really excited. I got to read the entire thing. It's very good. Check it out. It's probably popped up on the page still, and it will be in the links down below, or down, in the right above the comment section.
Yeah.
So please check it out and tweet at Jorn and tell him what you think about it. What do you like? What's your favorite maybe panel or favorite character? There's a lot of really cool and just like really well done characters. I think my favorite aesthetically is probably this guy known as the Watcher. He's like this cloaked figure with big horns, and you can't really see his face. He's very cool. I'm like, yeah, more of that guy. He's probably a very minor character, but I really liked him. So, yes, thank you, Jorn, for thinking of us first. And thank you for your amazing artwork, as always, for the channel. You've been a good friend to us, and I love working with you. I just want to, I want to see what's next, because I got to the end of it, and it was like, do you want to see what's in the next one? You have to come back for part 2. I'm like, no!
Yeah, I was like, man, that was too short.
That's too short. It wasn't enough.
It's like when you're binge watching a Netflix series, and, you don't know exactly where you are, because you're just in the zone, right? And then all of a sudden you get to the end, and it's like, oh my god, no, how could they end it on a cliffhanger like that? This is ridiculous!
Yeah. But, yeah, so thank you, Jorn, and please feel free to check that out. Also, thank you to This Is Daylub for our amazing theme music, as always. But on this week's episode, I didn't look up an animal, Joe, to confuse you or, make you try to figure out which one it is. I have an idea of what I wanted to do, and I think I might still look it up, and I might just bring it up later on in the cast when you're not expecting it. When you're going on a tangent, you'll hear me typing in the background. You'll be like, what's he doing? But now you'll know.
I get excited for that every week, and here you are.
Yeah, it's the third week in a row I'm dropping the ball. Anyway, so today, because Joe has not seen Suicide Squad yet, he's going to try to see it potentially this weekend, so we'll try to dissect all of that. But if you want to see my thoughts on it so far, kind of my shallow thoughts in a spoiler-free review, check it out. We have it on the channel. It should probably be popping up somewhere right now, but it'll probably be in the links down below, too. I'd love to hear what you think of the film. I'd love to hear what you think of the review. So,
could
thank you
you
for
at
checking that
least
out.
give us a little blurb on it, Jimmy? I mean, just a little teaser, maybe something to get people interested in your review, and maybe just a little something for me to think about going in.
It's a lot like all the other DC films.
Really?
As far as, I feel like there are moments where I'm like, wow, that's really good. But those are few and far between.
Oh, no.
Besides a lot of the garbage. So, but yeah, we'll get into it. Some people really like it. And that's so, hey, if you like that movie, if you like all the DC movies, good on you,
Yeah.
Love what you
like
want
me.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you're multitasking, Joe. What are you doing over here?
Nothing, just looking at something. I'll be back in a second, I promise.
Oh my gosh, this is what I have to deal with, guys. This is my 95.5% split. Anyway, so on this week, because we're not doing Suicide Squad, we have some interesting topics for discussion. There's a new trailer out for Resident Evil, the final chapter, which we're going to briefly talk about. Mm-hmm. We got a new Luke Cage trailer, and then kind of talking about the Defenders and stuff like that. And a special announcement that Joe probably already knows about, but I want his thoughts on it anyway, because it's something that I assume he could talk about for hours. We will try to limit him as much as we can.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, first, let's get to Resident Evil right off the bat, Joe.
All right.
I just had you watch this trailer, and you said that you don't have like a profound love for the Resident Evil movies. You said you haven't really seen a ton of them at all. So what do you think about this one?
It's just intense, her fighting and slaughtering things.
Sure. That's kind of like all of
them. And dodging lasers and beating people up. Is she ever going to die? Is she killable?
I think so, but we haven't... I don't know. She's probably died in one of the movies that come back.
Probably something stupid. I don't know. So is this like a... So it's Resident Evil, the final...
chapter. That's what they say. We don't know.
Is it really?
They could be lying.
She'll die in the end.
You think?
I'll admit it's kind of a cool base. My sister loves these films, believe it or not. Yeah. She loves the video games too. And monster-wise, cool stuff. You know, I love the designs and the scary horror aspects of it, and then the sci-fi mixed in there. But other than that, I've never been compelled enough by the story to get into it. You know, I tried watching one of the earlier ones, and it didn't capture my attention the way I was hoping.
Sure. So. Well, the thing is, Joe, they don't really mix in a lot of horror into these. Like, they have brief moments, and it's weird because these movies are kind of like the exact opposite of what the games are. Like, the games are usually pretty methodical and slow-paced.
Yeah.
For the most part. There's a few that are kind of like really action-heavy, but these ones seem to be like big bombastic action films, for the most part, that have just been ramping up as time goes by.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, Joe. It's weird because they're like, what I always think of them as they're like the perfect cable film. Like, you'd see it just on, like, playing on cable one day, and you might not turn it off, but you're probably not going to sit there and be like, wow, like, riveted, you know?
Yeah.
It might be like one of those things you catch, and you're like, oh, this is, you know, it's not that great, but I can see why people like it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, one of those deals. Yeah, I don't know. So you say that there aren't as many horror aspects to these? I guess the only reason I say that is because, like, you know, the dark areas and behind you, you know, and there's this scary as all get out monster. But, yeah.
The problem, Joe, is kind of like there are moments like that, but when you have a character like Alice who is very, very powerful, you really have to have, in a horror setting, someone that's actually vulnerable. Because with her, it's like no matter what she goes up against, she's just kind of unstoppable. I'm sure she has been stopped. I'm sure someone could correct me on this, but it's not really scary when it's like even if she wouldn't have gotten that warning in the trailer, she probably would have been just fine. Mm-hmm. You know, she's kind of hard to bring down. It's like warning the predator that a xenomorph is behind him. It's like, it's not really, you know, it's not really scary for the predator. You're like, oh, it's okay. They're going to be fine. They'll fight each other. It'll be good.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems like the budget for this movie is pretty high. And I think like the budgets have like slowly increased for these movies. I could be wrong again, but they seem to just be kind of amping it up more and more. And I think maybe if it's this last one, they're just kind of go maybe all out and try to finish up this story, which is like 4 or 5 movies long. There's been a lot of these movies, Joe.
There have been,
believe it or not.
Is this like the 6th?
I don't know.
It might be.
I'm horrible. It might. We can look that up too when I'm looking up the animal facts.
But yeah, it's. I don't know. There is a large fan base for the Resident Evil series or franchise. I think that's why it has been successful enough to keep going.
Sure.
Hopefully, I mean, there's money there. The video games make a lot of money and all that, so budget-wise, they may have a lot to work with.
Yeah, I wonder if because it is a video game franchise that we've seen a lot of movies of, it might be the most we've ever seen of one, you know, franchise just out throughout like big budget films. I wonder if something like Warcraft, with its big fan base and how it did in China, because they weren't sure if it was going to do a sequel, maybe because those are too large, like they probably won't make like 8 or 9 Warcraft films, even though I would like that personally. I'd be like, yeah, great. But I think Resident Evil kind of lends itself a little more to that, more of a budgeted property, and you can just do like a zombie slaughtering movie and people will be like, yeah, it's great, So, or I shouldn't say great. They'll be like, yeah, it's fine. It's more of the same. Like,
Yeah,
that's kind of what these movies are. Yeah. And the weird thing is that there's like a rotating cast, except for the main character there, Alice. And, it's kind of, people die, people show up. It's just
That's
all
true.
over the place.
That's true.
I will say one of the coolest characters, though, is you might have seen him he's got glasses and he's got slick back blonde hair. And he's like, I should have killed you in Washington.
Yeah.
That guy's name is Wesker. And he's a badass. Like, he's very cool.
The character's name?
Yeah. Albert Wesker. And he's got, like, this, I don't know which virus he has, but he's gotten a few of them. But he, like, basically, he's kind of like an agent from The Matrix. Like, if you shoot at him, he can, like, teleport around you. And he can, like, teleport up to you. He's got super strength, like, super speed, all this stuff. He's really, really cool. So, at least in the games, that's what he was like. He was a little bit in, like, one of the movies, too. And I think he's the president in one of them. Like, movies. It's very odd. But yeah, he's a really cool character.
Well,
he always wears sunglasses.
Isn't he, well, you wouldn't know this, but he looked like the same guy from Game of Thrones. Just saying.
There's a lot of people in Game of Thrones,
yeah,
so
well,
I will say
like
that
Khaleesi or Daenerys' right hand man or whatever.
I thought that was a dragon.
Yeah, the dragon. The guy who plays the dragon is the guy in Resident Evil. No, it's a common misconception. Her right hand man that she meets when she's with the Dothrakis. Just a little tidbit for you, people. Anybody who watches the Game of Thrones, I swear it's him. I'm pretty confident it is.
I don't think anybody watches that show.
I didn't get a good look.
I didn't get a good look. I have to go see it in theaters, Joe. Watch. You'll see that like opening night. Well, you didn't see Suicide Squad, but you'll see Resident Evil Final Chapter. It'll be like January. Be like, I'm there.
I will say it might be worth a watch. I mean, if you're desperate, you have some time to kill, want to go see a movie, it might be worthwhile.
I think it's smart to release it in January as well, Joe, because I think they knew that it's usually dead that time of year. Like all the Star Wars will have already come out, and like Doctor Strange will be like 2 months old, probably out of theaters by that point.
Yeah,
they won't really have to fight anybody for that spot, which I think is really intelligent. So it's just like they're just gonna make, hopefully they make their money back in a little bit, and then they can be like, all right, we're done.
True. So, it is a good time for them, I think.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think about Resident Evil. If you have any big Resident Evil fans, maybe game wise or movie wise or both, or maybe even neither. If you're like, Resident Evil, man, whatever. So anyway, let's move on to our next topic here, Joe, which is the new Luke Cage trailer. We got one a little while back, where he kind of rips the car door off of a vehicle, and he kind of like blasts his way into a building, and he gets the car door shot, and he gets shot, and he's just kind of taking dudes out left and right. This one is fleshed out a little bit more. We kind of get more story, kind of, like an origins thing. You get to see where he kind of started off, and they put him in like a tank, like a fish tank as he calls it, and he's like, he gets a bunch of abilities, mostly just the strength and the unbreakable skin. And we get to see him kind of be the defender of Harlem. What do you think so far about kind of the twist, not the twist so much, but like this version of the character we're seeing in this trailer now, as opposed to this kind of reluctant hero that we had in Jessica Jones, who's like, I just want my bar. Just leave me alone. I just want my bar. What do you think about this kind of him kind of getting into that role a little bit more? Do you like it? Do you not? It kind of has to happen.
It kind of has to happen. You knew it would go that way. To me, it seems like this is prior to the story of Jessica Jones.
Oh, it could be.
It seems like it may have happened before they met. Maybe there's a reason that he kind of became subdued and hid a little bit. You don't see any reference to his wife dying, etc., etc. So to me, I think it might have been a prior time period to Jessica Jones. So
okay,
he kind of steps out into the light a little bit. Like you see the reporters come up there asking, "Can you just tell us your name at least?" He kind of turns around. It's like, yeah. So maybe things kind of go a little haywire at the end of the series here for him, and he has to step back.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was gonna be like an Iron Man moment for. I'm glad they didn't do that. You know, where he like turns to the camera, he's like, "I'm Luke Cage," and they'd be like, what is it like?
Yeah,
what does that
I'm
mean?
glad
Like
they
with
did.
Iron Man, yeah,
I feel the same way. I'm glad they didn't do that.
that would have been weird. So what do you think of him? Kind of, he's kind of a little more like Daredevil in that he's kind of focused in on like saving people, whereas Jessica Jones is more of like trying to figure out her own problem that she had with the Purple Man.
True.
What do you think? Do you think it's going to be too much kind of like a retread of like some of the Daredevil stuff? Or how do you feel about it? Because right now it's like we got our hero who's facing off against like a mob boss of some sort and kind of beating his way up to the top. And this guy even looks kind of Kingpin-ish.
Yeah.
Like he's like, everybody wants to be the king. I don't know exactly. I'm sure he's got a name like from the comics and stuff. But what do you think? Do you think it'll retread too much?
You mean be too similar to the Daredevil scene?
Yeah, and even season 2 of Daredevil gets a little repetitive, I think.
Yeah. To be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of Daredevil.
Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of for me, kind of one dimensional and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be cool, and I like that he's in that role of, saving people and all that. And the trailer really did give you that badassery feel.
Yeah, definitely.
It actually, it got the blood pumping a little bit better than Resident Evil. The only good thing about the Resident Evil trailer was that they had Guns N' Roses playing.
Which, by the way, side note, Joe, did you notice that like Guns N' Roses, they kind of like took out parts of it and like overlapped it
like
in other parts, like the guitar part? And it is the 6th. I looked it up. It is the 6th movie in the
I figured that.
We had to double check anyway.
See, I knew. I at least knew that. Yeah. No, I don't think they can really do any wrong with Nick Cage or
Nick Cage. Luke Cage. No, Nick Cage would have been an interesting choice for casting.
Nick Cage is Luke Cage.
The bees, they're in my eyes. He's like going from Ghost Rider to Luke Cage.
No, man.
They'd be more up in arms about that than any casting call for Asian actors.
I don't think they can go wrong with his character. I mean, there's a lot they could do with him. I think, especially if it's prior to the Jessica Jones story, there could be a little bit of a love aspect in there. Maybe he meets his wife in this time. You just don't know. I don't know. It seems to me like it might be a little Daredevil-ish, like you're saying. Because it's just him taking out all these goons, working his way up to the Kingpin boss type guy, So I'm going to go in with low expectations and hope I won't be let down. I don't think I will, because the trailer, I mean, it got me pumping, it was pretty good.
Sure. Yeah. You know what I like about this trailer, Joe? It seems like it's a little more, I don't know if I want to say colorful, but there's more soul to it, I guess. It's more of like, it seems to be more embracing an actual place, or more so like Harlem, as opposed to like Hell's Kitchen, which, just seems like generic, like, and I don't know is Hell's Kitchen like an actual like little area of New York? Either way, it's just like generic movie or TV show in New York versus like Harlem, which seems like the community is going to be playing a bigger part. As opposed to the other, like Jessica Jones and Daredevil, they're kind of like just background. So that's kind of nice. It's nice to see a little more interaction for some new characters too. You see the nurse, obviously, from Daredevil in there. She's kind of like the through line for everybody. And I think that's why it's going to be like a future. It's not going to be a prequel, because unless they do flashbacks and stuff, because she's obviously had her time with him back in, I think, Jessica Jones. And then you see her talking to him throughout the rest of the trailer. So I'm guessing it's going to be moving on from the bar that it blew up in Jessica Jones and kind of his involvement with Harlem. Because I'm guessing that's what happened, because you'd think like even if he was a big name in Harlem and moved to another part of New York, that people would still be like, there'd be rumors of some dude who like just was like crushing people all over.
Sure, that's a good point. Do you think Jessica? So who's going to be featured in this? Will Jessica Jones be in this, or?
I think. From the rumors I've heard kind of from the Defenders, I think they might be saving that. She could cameo maybe once, but I think it'll be more of like they have to get back together in that group in, you know, the Defenders instead, as opposed to having her be a big role in this one, you know. So
does it seem to me like, I mean, are you even going to be worried about Luke Cage?
Yeah, that's the thing. And, you know, they kind of say that in the trailer because, like, one of the people says, like, yeah, you might be bulletproof, but, you know, Harlem isn't. And that makes a good point. It's kind of like a lot of superheroes, they kind of cover up their identity like Spider-Man does because he's like, I don't want the people I love to get hurt. And Luke, so far, he's like, I'm just walking around with like a hoodie, you know? Yeah. You can find me and, like, you can try to hurt me, but it's not going to matter. So they'll probably, like, you see the barbershop get shot up.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it'll be like they're attacking.
There. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be one of those, like, they kind of hit you in the emotional soft spot, you know, or for him. But I'll say this, Joe, I used to be a really big person. I used to be just a huge guy. I was huge, Joe. I was just massive.
Yeah, thank God you lost all that weight, pal. I mean,
I was
worried about you. Your little heart couldn't take it.
I had to get that off my chest quick.
Now,
it used to be a massive
for reference,
chest.
Guys, he used to be like 6'6", 350 pounds. Not a stretch of muscle on the guy. Just rolls rolls after rolls. And now he's 6 foot, slender, cut, and
full of rage.
About a strong 155, 160.
About like 180, 190.
Oh, all right.
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so I basically used to be Luke Cage, like an albino Luke Cage. And I just wanted everyone to know that. But what I meant to say is right before I had that mishap is that I didn't like Luke Cage a lot, and it was mostly from like video games and stuff, and they kind of portray him in a lot of like the cartoon shows as being a very like narrow, just shallow character who's just like, yeah, I'm a hero for hire, and you can't break my skin, and I could just punch you up all day. And I was like, oh man, when they were like, he's gonna be Jessica Jones, I was like, ugh. But I gotta say, he might have been my favorite character in Jessica Jones. Not that for me there was a lot of competition because I didn't really like everybody else was kind of a jerk in that show. Yeah. He was cool.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
He was
I
liked
him over all of them.
He was really like smooth, but he was also like he was kind of funny at times, but he had this kind of gravitas when he walked in a room. He didn't have to say anything, but you're like, man, that guy, he's serious. That guy's a threat. So I'm just really excited to see him get his own show and kind of run with it, because when I first saw him, I was like, man, I hope this really works out. I hope it goes through. And when I saw that at the end of Jessica Jones, I think it was Daredevil season 2, they're like, all right, Luke Cage is getting his own thing. It's like, yeah, sweet. So I wonder if they'll play off of the, like I said before, the heroes for hire, which are typically like Luke Cage and Iron Fist. And they used to they're like mercenaries, like they do good things, but they want to get paid for it. So I'm not getting that vibe yet in this show because he's like, I'm going to save my town of Harlem or whatever, but I'm going to need to get paid. Like he's like, I'd help you, but I got to get some money. You know what I mean? Whereas like he tells that Asian family who owns that grocery store, he's like, you're under my protection now. It's like, oh, wow. Like, all right, sweet. Like, thanks, buddy. Also, I think it's going to be maybe even a little more lighter in tone than both Jessica Jones and Daredevil. Those are both pretty dark shows, and it seems like this one's going to have they'll still have the dark moments, but I think there's going to be hopefully a little more levity. I think a lot of that's going to come in the form of the barbershop and the guys who work there. And the guys like talking like, oh yeah, the neighborhood's talking about like, these 2 guys just got run down, these 2 thugs, and there's Luke sitting in the corner. He's like, I heard it was 4.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I was
clearly the barber knows what's going on, and he laughs at him.
Oh yeah, well he's the one who's kind of pushing him. It seems like to like go out and do stuff. So that'll be he's kind of, I'm guessing, like the Uncle Ben. Do you think he's going to be a dead man, Joe?
Somebody's going to try and steal his car. He's going to say no, and he's going to get gunned down right there.
Oh, Joe, that reminds me. We'll bring up this later maybe, but man, every time I think of Uncle Ben, I think of the good version, which is the Sam Raimi ones, and then I think of the bad one, which I like Martin Sheen. But I really got to say that his death in Amazing Spider-Man is comical. If you haven't seen it, he basically jumps for a gun because this other guy trips who has a gun, and the guy just picks up and shoots him.
Yep.
Oh, man. So good. I love you, Martin. I almost said Michael. No, we're on a whole different tangent. We get to Charlie. So, Joe, now I just kind of want to talk. We're talking about Luke Cage here. And now, we're talking, I'm thinking forward. I'm thinking Defenders. We've gotten a little bit of Iron Fist. We know whose cast is that and stuff like that. do you think it's going to be hard for them to kind of mix and marry all of these genres, kind of, or just the tones of the show? And by that, I mean Daredevil's kind of like your Arrow, so far. Like, it's like the Arrow.
Sure.
It's kind of like this dark, like, I'm going to save this city. And then Jessica Jones, I don't know if you'd want to call it, it was obviously a little more light, but there's still some really, really dark stuff in there, but it was a little more sarcastic. I think she just as a character, she was the main focus, obviously, but it was much more kind of like, whatever, I don't care about this, blah, 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 but she had a lot of stress. And with Luke Cage, we're kind of getting this more soulful, community-driven, possibly, show. And with Iron Fist, it might be even, like, kind of mystical. Do you think Defenders will have a hard time kind of mixing all those groups into one show and making it like, oh, this works?
No, because I don't think they'll have a hard time, because they're definitely bringing it to reality. They're
Sure.
not, they're keeping it somewhat grounded to the point where I think they'll meld well. I don't know a lot about the Defenders so far. I know Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. Who else?
Daredevil.
Who's that guy?
Who's Daredevil? It's like the one who started it all.
His show sucked. Anywho, who else?
Yeah, Ben Affleck was the worst. So that's going to be the 4 Defenders we have right
it.
now. I'm sure it's like the Avengers where they switch out.
Well,
right
so
now
we've
it's
already
like that
seen them
format.
all except for Iron Fist. Iron Fist might be somewhat mystical, right? But I think they'll keep it grounded in a way that he's a real human, doing human stuff, but has these abilities. I think it'll work out. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
So you think it's going to be fine? I think while I was reading this article talking about, like, they thought it was going to be challenging, but it was going to be fun for the people who were producing this to put someone like Luke Cage in, like, a situation that would seem more of, like, an episode of Daredevil in the Defenders. Or, you take someone like Jessica Jones and put her in something like a Luke Cage scenario and be like, oh, this could have been ripped from his season or something like that. But either way, I think, building each of these up before they go into one thing, which Marvel's been really good about, is smart because, like, they could do these 3 and then do Defenders and then do Iron Fist standalone. But it's like, I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think they're going to do all the separate ones and then come together, so people know who the Defenders actually are.
Yeah.
They don't have to feel like they have to rush it out or kind of do the DC thing where it's like, all right, here they all are. Like, just love them. It's fine. So, yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I think, I know you say you didn't really like Daredevil, but you still you're okay with the show, right?
I was okay with it. Obviously, I watched them all, but it wasn't like I was like hook, line, and sinker into it. I liked Elektra a lot. I thought she was pretty cool.
And there were some Punisher.
And Punisher, yeah. And there were some cool moments, don't get me wrong. Some episodes were better than others, Some of them fell flat for me and were a little boring.
They all kind of run together for me, and I really think, I've heard other people say this too, but I think, you could probably whittle that 13 episodes down to maybe 10, or maybe even less, because I would rather have you make, like, 8 to 10 episodes that are just, like, so solid, there's no filler, and it's just like, oh, that was great, and I could watch it in, like, 2 or 3 days, as opposed to, like, 13, where it's like, they just kind of like, all right, Daredevil fights more ninjas, like, in this episode, and they're like, how should we make another episode end? And like, more ninjas. It's just like, okay.
And all he is just, he doesn't really have much for superhuman abilities or anything. He's just...
Well, he's got superhuman hearing. He's got, like, kind of superhuman agility. He's got a lot of training. He's got more than technically Batman does.
So what are you saying? Could Daredevil beat Batman?
No, because Batman has got, like, the fans behind him. That's what I was thinking about when I watched, like, a character in a movie. Like, just quick side note, like, anytime Harley Quinn or Joker was, like, any, like, turmoil in Suicide Squad, I was like, they're fine. I was like, they can't kill him. Like, I'm like, as someone who knows, I'm like, they're fine. So it's like with Batman, I'm never like, you could put him against anybody almost, and you'd be like, hey, he's gonna be just fine. People love Batman. He's gonna be fine. And this is from a guy who just absolutely loves Batman. I'm part of the problem. Like, that's why he's invulnerable. It's just because I love him so much.
Yeah, you love Batman, but notice how you're critical of your reviews of DC Universe items.
That is the role of a critic, Joe. We have to be critical of the things we love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I want to be more critical of Marvel, and I am. And that's why, I don't even want to get into it. But we'll see how that Black Widow standalone movie works. They need to put her with a partner, for goodness sakes. Like, I just don't want to watch, like, a spy movie with just Black Widow. We could be partners.
Use these. We could get it done. Be partners.
Is this Hawkeye? Are we doing Hawkeye right now?
Partners.
Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Car.
Is there any Bostonian accents in the Avengers that we're missing?
I don't know. It'd be cool.
Think so.
It'd be cool. I don't know. I just thought of that line. We could be partners. I'm thinking of the Water Boy where his dad's like, we could be partners. Yeah, whatever.
Sure. Moving on. Yeah, we don't need to offend anymore. But, yes, Joe, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, even though I love Batman and all the DC stuff, I'm very, very critical of it. But it's been easy to be critical of DC as of late. But this brings me into the perfect segue for this amazing question, Joe. Are you ready?
Ready. Ready as I'll ever be. The suspense is killing me. Come on, drop it.
Here's a little trivia for you, Joe. And I want you to tell me which animal it is.
All right, I've got the old Google machine ready.
Don't do it. So, this desert antelope stands up to about 4.5 feet tall. Uh-oh. He's cheating.
I'm totally trying to Siri it.
He's trying to Siri it. It's not going to help because I'm going to mix it up.
I can't understand you. Speak louder. Okay, go ahead.
So this antelope, Joe, it's a white antelope with some brown markings around its neck. It's extinct in the wild, but used to live in the northern African countries such as Senegal, Chad, and Egypt. Its horns, just so you know, are shaped like Middle Eastern swords. What animal am I looking for? And just to clarify for people who have missed the last 2 weeks, we had polar bear, which Joe said was easy, platypus, which Joe said was way too easy. Now this one's going to be very difficult. I'm going to give you 5 seconds.
What? No, I was in Washington, D.C., and I saw it. It was in the Smithsonian.
He's cheating.
I am
You didn't
totally
see it. You didn't go to the zoo.
I'm totally cheating. We'll just say this. I don't know the name of it, but I saw it in the Smithsonian. I kid you not. They had like 3 different ones.
Did you go to the zoo, Joe? I thought you said you didn't go to the zoo.
No, the Natural History Smithsonian. They have a bunch of stuffed animals on display.
Sure.
Okay, it's not the oryx, is it?
It is the scimitar horned oryx. That's what we're looking for. It's pretty easy. Everybody should know it. Scimitar horned oryx. Look it up.
If you knew that without looking it up, I want to see your comment.
Also, I knew it because I went to Disney's Animal Kingdom a bunch as a kid because I was spoiled and my parents brought me there all the time. Again, it was against I had no choice. They just brought me there. But it was one of the animals on the ride, and I remember thinking, that's pretty cool because its horns are like swords.
Wait, so there they actually had some there?
Yeah, they definitely do. Because they are extinct in the wild, they do have them at preserves, kind of like the Harambe Wildlife Preserve down in Orlando. Well, technically probably Kissimmee or Lake Buena Vista. It's a fake wildlife preserve, Joe, but they make you feel like it's real.
Yeah.
So,
those animals adjust to the humid Florida climate, huh?
It's pretty incredible, Joe. A lot of those guys seem right at home, and they kind of provide them with everything they could possibly need. So
like cell phones, massages, king size beds, clean sheets,
Bluetooth,
towels,
Wi-Fi, stuff like that.
The essentials. They got what they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you go, Joe. How easy was that one?
I
had to do a really difficult one.
That was a little tough. That was above. I had to do one that was like nearly impossible. Index.
But Joe, because we were talking about DC, and I did have the perfect segue right into it, but I was like, I'm just going to ruin it. Man of Steel 2 has been announced. Did you know about this?
I didn't know about this. How did I not know? Why didn't you say something?
Because this is a surprise announcement that I'm making to the world that you're the first human to hear it, except for all the other people who probably read about it online. But Man of Steel 2, so Joe, I want to just I'm not going to read this word for word, but I just want to tell you kind of the gist, what we're hearing here. So apparently, it's a very high priority for WB to get the character of Superman correct now, or just do it correctly. That means kind of to me, when I hear that, is like so far from the feedback the audience are giving and the kind of what the executives are seeing and the producers are seeing is that the tone of Superman right now, he himself, not the films necessarily, is not aligning with Superman that everybody else knows and loves.
What about Superman from Smallville, Clark Kent? He was always pretty distraught and kind of down in the dumps once in a while, like he needed some depression medication.
He was a happy-go-lucky teen drinking milk out of the fridge and putting it back.
That's true. At some point,
call back to the first episode right there. It's right there. Yeah, no, he's a happy-go-lucky lad. Don't you worry about Clark Kent from Smallville. But Joe, Man of Steel 2. How you feeling? Are you excited? Because like for a while we weren't sure we were gonna get one. Because after they announced Batman vs Superman, it was kind of like
Superman. Of course, they're gonna give you another one.
Well, they were gonna give us something, but I wasn't sure.
It's like Iron Man. You knew there'd be a 2 and a 3.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, you put Robert Downey Jr. in any movie now, you could just have him walking around a park and it would probably make $1 billion. He's just, like, pointing at trees and stuff. People are like, oh, it's so good.
Well, you know the size of that one. I can't believe that didn't cut down back in the day. You know, look at that thing.
Yeah. That'd be great. But anyway, so Man of Steel 2, Joe, what do you, if you had to change, I know you liked Man of Steel, and you didn't completely hate Batman vs Superman.
No, not
what
at all.
would you want, just for Superman alone, is there anything you personally would want to change about him right now, or are you completely fine with how he's been portrayed thus far? Loaded question.
You know, they're getting to the high points of Superman, who he is, how he deals with being a hero. You know, all the big questions, you know, the deep ones, the Inception, my mind blown sort of stuff, you know, the things that he has to deal with on that level. I think they need to bring it back down a little bit. Huh? You know, maybe maybe make it a more intimate thing. Have him interact with characters on a smaller scale a little bit, you know, like, you know, the characters from Smallville, some of those characters that, you know, from the comics, the older ones, you know, like the Chloe Sullivans or the who else you got, like his friends, like a Pete Ross or something. Bring it down to that level a little bit. Make it a little more intimate instead of so larger than life, but maybe have a broader picture in mind. Like they're involved with it, and you know, this more intimate setting around a broader picture, you know, a higher point of the story, if you will, focal point. You know, because what's the main villain going to be in something like this? Where are we talking for Man of Steel 2?
I don't know. That was the question I was going to get to after this, but I wanted to know, before you get to that, like, I'm talking, like, personality-wise. Do you like dour Superman? Do you like depressed, frowny face, probably never smiles Superman?
No, I understand. He's in a tough position. The whole world's looking at him, and most of them hate his guts, right? Then some of them see him as a symbol of hope, and then, you know, he's just not quite where he needs to be yet. I would understand. Any of us would be in a little bit of a depressed mode, you know, trying to figure out how to deal with that responsibility and the way people look at you. The whole world.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess, but they worship, like, in most places, they worship him like a god or like a savior type of thing. So I don't know if it'd be. I think it's just there's some vocal people. He watches the news too much. I think he just watches too much news. I think he's turning on the news and they're like, "Do we need a Superman?" And he's like, "Well, you got one." You know, like he's just kind of sitting there shrugging his shoulders.
I don't know.
Like,
I have no room to talk. I'd just be out robbing banks and beating up people.
That's why Joe will never get superpowers, but sadly would be the first to actually get them. And he'd be like, sweet! Which we have a question about that later. I don't know. I think, you know, it sounds like they're going to make him a little more of that beacon of hope, and maybe after his resurrection, spoiler alert, but he'll come back as a more, like, happy symbol of hope, as opposed to this kind of, like, the world is against me and I don't know what to do. Mostly the cable world.
That's okay.
I mean, again, just turn off your TV. You know, he'd be better off for it. But so far, he's just been kind of depressing, you know, and we've talked about this too. You know, Superman's what we reach for. You know, he's like the ideal, and he should be, hopefully, like, he should kind of overcome things that you or I would have a problem with. Like, Batman should have depression problems. He's like, I've killed so many people now, and I said I'd never do it. He's just sitting in the Batcave. Yeah, and my mother's name was Martha. And so is Clark's. Like, you know, it's just going back and forth.
They almost killed his mother.
Yeah, they almost did, and then Batman killed that guy, which is KG Beast. Anyway, so Joe, yeah, so we're talking about that sequel, and we've kind of probably talked about this in the past too. There are some big, villains we could still do for this one, and unfortunately, Doomsday is kind of taken off the table now. So, who do we look to next? Who's like a standalone, Batman or Superman villain?
That's true. It's weird they took Doomsday off the list. Will we see Doomsday ever again?
Probably, and then they'll probably kill Superman again to do the death of Superman twice.
Oh, all right. Let's stop while we're ahead.
You're carrying your microphone like you're like a lounge singer again, Joe. Gosh. You got to keep it a certain distance away at all times, Joe. It messes up the editing.
Distance, a good, 7 or 8 inches.
Oh, God.
That's what she said. Anyway, keep her going.
Here it is.
Somebody's got to bring some comedy to this thing.
Yeah, it's me. I don't. You keep looking over your shoulder like a crazy person.
I was trying to see if somebody else is laughing.
Yeah, she's probably laughing, or she's just frowning and shaking her head. I'm going with the latter.
No, she's in the zone, not even paying attention.
Oh, all right. Anyway, do you think Brainiac, Joe? Do you go Brainiac in Man of Steel 2?
That's a good one. Who's the one that looks just like him?
Darkseid.
No. The imitation
Metallo.
of him. Is it Metallo? It's not Metallo.
Oh, you're talking about Bizarro. Do you think I like the idea, Joe? And I thought that's what they were gonna do for Batman vs Superman. I thought instead of Doomsday, it was gonna be like a Bizarro, like they kind of. But do you think that's too much Zod? Do you think it's just too much like it's just Zod pretty much again? I like where your head's at. Also, Bizarro sometimes comes off as like an idiot, depending on which one which version Like he's like really stupid, and he's like, ooh, he's kind of like a Frankenstein's monster Superman.
I'm picturing it right now, like
just this high budget,
drooling Superman with a droopy face.
And they're like, "This is the destroyer of worlds," and he just comes kind of shambling into the shot, and he's like, Superman's like, "I will destroy you."
Limping, can barely fly.
Be great.
Slow.
I don't know.
All right.
Or do you just inject Superman with some red kryptonite and just go bananas and call him the villain?
Eventually that's the direction they're going.
That'd be great. For those who don't know, red kryptonite it doesn't make him a villain necessarily. It just it takes away all of the things that hold him back from being just doing whatever he wants.
No inhibitions. Takes all his inhibitions away, and he gets real paranoid and kind of no emotion whatsoever other than thinking of himself.
Yeah, which this will be another call out for Joe here and any Smallville fans. Crimson, Joe, that episode?
Yeah.
Good times. We don't have to get into it, but it was if you ever go through Smallville, check that episode out.
I'm going to start watching them again, man.
Yeah, Joe's got every few years he just starts it back up.
Yeah, I might do it. You in with me or what? Are you doing it?
No, I'm due for my One Tree Hill start note. No, I'm just kidding.
Smallville was great.
Crimson
was a good one, man. Crimson was a good one.
Yes, it was. But it's okay. You're saying maybe Bizarro. I'm saying maybe Brainiac.
Brainiac could be.
I don't know.
Brainiac could be.
Brainiac's like my favorite. Yeah. The problem with Brainiac, Joe, is he's like Ultron in that you could make him like a villain for the entire Justice League, but he might be the thing they do after Darkseid. That's what I always think is like, as a producer, as like mean like business Jimmy, like where do you go, down the line?
I just feel like Darkseid should be like the creme de la creme of villains. They should save him for something big.
They can't. They have to go. They're playing catch up, Joe, and they're like, we can't take our time with it. I don't know. They're just going. They're doing Steppenwolf first. Remember the one that we never heard of, and now
true. So Steppenwolf, then they'll do Brainiac, then they'll do Darkseid.
But we don't know. Brainiac's not, as we haven't heard anything from him. He could be in Man of Steel 2. We're not supposed to expect that film anytime soon. So I'm guessing it would be maybe after
Justice League,
Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman. Yeah.
Because we have Justice League is coming not this November, but next. Wonder Woman comes next June, I believe, and then Aquaman the following, 2018.
So, and I'm really excited for Aquaman too. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, we need to see something good from him because so far we haven't really gotten. He's been fine. I don't know. For the Batman vs Superman stuff, it was real bad, but this trailer, it was all right. He's just splashing himself in the face with water. I need more than that, Joe. But yeah, I don't know if anybody in the comments wants to share with us like a favorite kind of Superman villain that you think would be a good standalone one. I think Metallo could work, Joe, if you bring Lex Luthor into the fold. Get rid of Jesse Eisenberg. I'm talking Lex Luthor Sr. Introduce him in this one, and then maybe have Metallo, which is like a cyborg guy with kryptonite at his core. So like the only way he fights Superman is, Super gets too close to him, and Metallo just kind of like starts punching him, So I don't know. It could be pretty good, and he could take a hit. Metallo's pretty strong. Like he's made of metal. Like can kind of throw him through a few buildings. Because the problem with Man of Steel is that fight scene has still yet to be kind of topped. True. Like they kind of touched at it in Batman vs Superman. And not that you need to top it.
Kryptonian fighting a Kryptonian. I mean, can you really get any bigger and better than that?
It puts a dumb smile on my face, Joe. I love when Krypton, like all that stuff in Man of Steel. I love it. I really do. And I know people get really angry and they're like, "Oh, Superman would have taken, Zod outside of the city," and it's like, well, Zod wouldn't have followed him. Like they went up into space and they blew up that Wayne satellite, and then they came back down. Like it's just like that fight. I love watching those Kryptonians go toe to toe. Just give me an hour of that. Well, maybe not an hour. That'd be too much, but
in the moving seats, I get sick.
Oh
God, he hit him again.
First world problems. Yes.
Fight scenes like that with moving seats in a theater, though, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. But maybe that's what they'll do, Joe. Maybe they'll introduce like the more proper Lex Luthor, like Lex Luthor Sr. in this next Man of Steel.
Yes.
Maybe.
Excuse me. Long day. Sorry for the yawn. Michael Rosenbaum.
It can't be, because Jesse Eisenberg is like the same age as Michael Rosenbaum.
Michael Rosenbaum, he's pushing 40. He's a young-looking 40, but he's older than Jesse.
You have to go... Well, he couldn't have had him when he was like 10 or something,
even
if that's
the case. He was 16, all right? Come on.
You gotta go older, Joe. You gotta get your Bryan Cranston or whatever.
Bryan Cranston's a stuck-up piece of crap. We need to... I'm kidding.
Brian's a big fan of the show. Thank you for tuning in, Brian. I know you can hear us. I think he might be a sidekick, like scientist to Aquaman, Bryan Cranston. I think he signed on for that role.
Seriously?
Which is still, I think, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure, it makes me sad, because I'm like, who are we going to get to play Lex? Because if it's Jesse Eisenberg again, if it's like one big trick, Joe, and it's like he was the Riddler the whole time, that would be great. I'd be okay with that.
Like
swallow that pill.
Who am I really?
Yeah, exactly.
Riddle me this, Batman.
If you would have said Riddle at all in that movie, I'd have been like, Riddler confirmed.
Yep,
He's the Riddler. He has to be the Riddler.
Too. I totally would have too.
I would have gotten a petition. I would have been like, let's just make it happen, DC. I can fix everything that's wrong with the DC universe. Just give me like 10 minutes to talk with some of the show writers and stuff, and we can get going. Yeah. We can fix this. But yeah, so you're excited. It sounds like you're excited for that movie. I'm excited for that movie because I actually still really like Man of Steel.
Yeah, me too. Now, of all the DC movies that we've seen thus far, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman.
Yeah, Suicide Squad. You haven't seen it yet.
But so out of all of them, which one's your favorite right now, or which one stands out the most? Man of Steel?
Okay, those are two different things, though. Which one stands out the most to me, and which one's my favorite? I think as far as a cohesive, just like kind of story and kind of just like a solid outing, I feel like Man of Steel is the best that DC has to offer right now.
Okay.
Which is too dang bad because... just disappointment after disappointment. I know, I don't know. I don't think I'm in the minority here. It doesn't matter if you're in the minority for these thoughts or whatnot, but yeah, let's just focus on that. Also, Zack Snyder, I think we get rid of Zack Snyder and we bring in, some new directing
the brothers from Marvel, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that they can't do it, but that would be hilarious. They're like, fresh off of the Infinity Wars, the Russo brothers have decided to take a crack at DC.
And Marvel's just like, if you make any money, you're welcome. We did it better.
Yeah, exactly.
First. It's like, yeah, no, that would never happen.
If I was a director, I would probably try to call some other like superhero film directors and maybe just kind of like, just say like, hey, I'm doing this, and I just want to know like what's like some advice you could give me, because for these movies, regardless of how good of a director you are or however many people are working on it together, there's just so much pressure to make it perfect, and rarely does that happen. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but it's gonna be a while, Joe. It's gonna be a while before Man of Steel 2, or which they might not even call it that. They could call it whatever they want to. So yeah. You're psyched? I see that you're psyched as you're staring off screen. I think you're playing MXGP2. You pause that game, Joe. Focus in.
No, I'm actually looking at buying Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice right now.
Oh, are you gonna buy it? Like on what?
On my Xbox.
Oh, are you gonna get the Ultimate Edition? I think that's the only one you can get.
I think that's the one. Well, no, they had a theatrical cut. Now I'm looking at the extended plus theatrical cut.
What?
Eh?
Joe, we should. I know, like one of my favorite groups or podcasts, Mr. Sunday Movies and Nick Mason, Wikipedia Brown. They did a commentary for it, and I've been listening to it right now of this movie. It's 3 hours long. The movie is, and I think one of these days we should do a commentary for.
Is that how they did it? Or
is that how they did what?
They just did a commentary. They didn't do a over the film, obviously.
So what they did, Joe, is, again, this is like behind the scenes stuff that you guys get to be a part of. It's basically how we're doing this right now, Joe. Mm-hmm. Except they were in the same room, so they just recorded it while they watched. They just put subtitles on, and then they put out that commentary. So it's like if you looked it up and then hit play at the same time you hit play on the movie, you can check that out. And also, if you wanted to watch that, if you guys are interested, just type in Mr. Sunday Movies and Bandcamp. Just on Google or whatever, you can listen to it for free, or you can pay them $1 or do whatever. But if you do, and you do like follow them or whatnot, tell them Critical Reviews sent you. Tell them Jimmy sent you, because it's good stuff. But I don't know if you guys want to see something.
Talk about them a lot. They sound like they're pretty good.
They're great. I don't know if it's the Australian accents or just their funny take on most of the things that we like to watch. But we seem to be we line up on most of our thoughts with that kind of stuff. So I'd love to cross over with them one day if they'd have us.
That we do.
Anywho. Now, Joe, we are going to go into questions. I know we were thinking about doing questions last, but we've got some really good ones this week. And I just want to get right into it. So, we already kind of talked about, Chris McKeague sent one over. He said, @GirlCriticalOutLever627 _627. Reactions to the new Man of Steel announcement. Is this what the DCEU needs right now? Or should they try something else? So kind of coming hot off that, Joe, what do you think? How do you feel about that? Do you think this is like the movie they need right now? I know you haven't seen Suicide Squad yet, but or would you rather have them just go somewhere completely different? Do that Martian Manhunter standalone or whatnot.
Martian Manhunter standalone. I think they need more standalones, flat out. Yeah, plus, I like the Martian Manhunter. There's one Oreos
would you take that?
Over. Anywho, what?
Would you take that over Man of Steel 2, though? I know you love Superman.
I love Superman, but I've been dished out. I've seen enough of him thus far to keep my thirst quenched or whatever.
Sure.
So, I'd like to see some more standalones, different characters brought into the fold. More potential is there. Not only are the main characters from those movies featured, but you also get other characters featured that can be brought into play down the road. It's just. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that, similar to how Marvel did it early on.
Sure.
I think it's a better way to go.
Yep, I completely agree with you. At the same time, though, I think that doing a Man of Steel 2 and kind of refocusing on what makes Superman actually Superman and kind of focusing on more of those, those morals that he holds so near and dear and true, I think that's a really smart idea. Just kind of focus on him again, because he is a cool character. There's a lot you can do with him. Obviously, we've had tons of movies by him, a TV show, all this stuff, comics for years. There's a lot to go off of with Superman. Just don't feel like you need to cram a bunch of different like comic runs into one movie. Don't feel like you need to be like, all right, we need to do like The Dark Knight Returns and Death of Superman in the same movie. Just do like one good, storyline and just be good with it.
Exactly. Yeah. They're just trying to cram too much in. I think that's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into this next one from Weird Girl, aka Anna, friend of the show.
Yeah.
She says, @GoCritical, and I'm assuming you too, Joe. #Critical Podcast. You are granted one power of your choosing. How would you take over the world using it, and how would you rule? So, Joe.
I'm not sure. I'm not so sure anyone wants the answer to this.
I want your answer to this, but if you don't have one right away, I can start.
One power.
Just one.
Superman doesn't qualify. His powers don't qualify. That's multiple powers.
Superman's got like every power, depending on which one you read.
Let me think for a second. I want you to go first.
All right, so like you guys probably know that I love telekinesis, and that would be, I think, like, you know, if it was like you could just pick the one to take over the world with, though, it's difficult because like my telekinesis would have to be like basically unstoppable. Like I'd have to be able to walk like right towards like an entire army and have nothing hit me and be able to just like crush everybody just by kind of looking at them. So if it was on that level, then sure. But the other two I was thinking about, Joe, maybe power of persuasion. I've kind of seen that in other shows where you like someone needs to have like physical contact with someone else and they can make them do whatever they want, or you could just say whatever you want, kind of like
Jones style.
Yeah, or Purple Man. He didn't even need that, but that would be one you could take over the world with that. And the other one I was thinking about, it was that one, and shoot, there was another one too. It's not time stopping because that'd be hard. You know, because if you were doing how would you rule, it'd be a lot easier if you had that like persuasion ability to just like I would rule really easily because I just tell everyone in the world to follow my lead, you know, and then people would be like, yeah, it's great. It'd be kind of utopian depending on what I consider to be utopia.
But you'd have to touch everybody to persuade.
Not necessarily. For the Purple Man, remember he had like a radius. We're talking like, we'll just say that you can. I could do it right now to you, Joe, and you're far away. I'm like, Joe, stand up and start jumping on one foot. You know, like you just start doing it. Like no. No, he's doing it. You guys can't see, but he's doing it. For anybody who would be watching,
God, my ankle!
Happening?
I rolled my ankle.
Keep jumping.
No, please.
But yeah, Joe, what would you do? What? Come on with your one power, and let's just say it's focused more at world domination.
I don't know that I need any superpowers for that, Jimmy. You know what would be pretty cool?
What would be pretty cool?
I've got a lot of things running through my mind right now. I'm trying to think of the easiest because I have no patience. Anyone who knows me knows I have absolutely zero patience. So I'm trying to think of the one that would be the most powerful, qualifies as one power, and would make it very easy to take over the world.
Well, it doesn't have to be easy necessarily. You could kind of like Luke Cage it and be like, I'm taking over the whole world and I'll kill anybody who gets in my way, and if you try to hurt me, you can't hurt me.
Well,
you know,
initially I immediately thought Luke Cage style. But
sure.
Even he is, I don't think he's unstoppable. Like, he's strong, but only to a point.
Hulk, if I could control it, but usually like the controlled versions of Hulk are not as good as like straight up Savage, where he's just like completely lost his mind and you just
so
can't
immediately
kill him.
I jumped the Hulk after Luke Cage because I'm like, okay, that's one power. I could take over anything and everything. You know, I go with Jimmy is the ultimate like intelligence. I go with Tony Stark style stuff because then the options are kind of limitless almost.
Okay, yeah. I just got to that one too. I was like technomancy or whatever. Like you could control all technology everywhere because we're so reliant on it. You could just be like, yeah, I'm taking over.
Oh yeah, that'd be unreal,
like
Brainiac style almost.
Yeah.
But Tony Stark style power, that'd be pretty awesome. I mean, if you really think about it, you know, the whole thing, I privatized world peace or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, technically something like that, you probably could. I mean, you could I don't know that you could single-handedly, you know, forward all efforts against you. You'd need help. But with his computer systems, you have that knowledge. Yeah. You could take out technology all over the world. You know, you start at the bottom, work your way up, take out... I would start with evil dictators and stuff like that in underdeveloped countries and get rid of, you know, supreme leaders that are, you know, bad and all that good stuff, you know.
Sure.
And then work my way up to the United States.
Sure. There you go. You heard it here. We're on a watch list.
I
other one
really am
thinking,
that
Joe,
smart, guys. Everybody look out. I'm building something.
It might be too difficult to pull off as like a superpower because it's like maybe too much. It's like too super, but like omniscience, where I just know everything, but my head wouldn't explode. Where I just would like, I'd be like, I know everything, and you could use that to blackmail people. You could use that information to just basically do anything you wanted.
I don't know that I want that. It probably your body emotionally. I don't think you could handle it. If you knew everything, you would be like.
I know. Well, okay. Well, this is also from the like any superpower would probably ravage any of our bodies, probably anyway. But
just for the record, Hulk powers. That's my second choice.
Joe's not even talking about controlling it. He just wants to go insane. He's like
savage
goes into the White House, and you're like, "I'm taking over the world," and they're like, "All right, shut up," and you're just like, "You shut up," and then he just starts.
Are you trying to make me angry?
No, sir, that's not what we're trying to do at all. We're trying to offer you a cookie. You're like, I hate those cookies. I bet they have almonds in them.
Are those oatmeal raisin? No, sir, they're chocolate chip with pecans. Son of a...
White House destroyed. I picture you more like a Red Hulk, Joe. But anyway, omniscience, and I was gonna say it'd be kind of cool because like I would also be able to make like checks and balances in my mind. So like I could know everything, but I would like wall off things that I just wouldn't need to know. Because in my omniscience, I'd be able to do that. I'd be like, oh, I don't need to know everything that everybody thinks about me. I'd be like, wall that off. Like, I'd be like, I don't want to know. It'd be really good. No one would want me to hang out with me anymore because they feel like he's just not fun to hang out with anymore. Because I'd be like, you're lying to me right now. And they'd be like, yeah, I am. And I'd be like, you've always lied to me, haven't you? And they'd be like, it's okay. Because all your friends are lying to you.
Technically, like, you know what they're thinking and
paranoid.
Everything, so...
Yeah, you'd know everything, man. Everything. I'd be really fun with the religious groups, too. Because, if there was, like, one that was right, I'd be like, you're right. No, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're like, no!
Jesus is real.
Yeah.
No, Jesus wasn't real. You'd start a world war. Anywho.
I'd be like, and there's also an alien race who's highly advanced, and they'll be here in about 3,000 years. So we should probably get ready for that. Like, I'm not gonna live forever, people, or can I? With omniscience, like I'd be like, it's getting crazy.
I'm not worried.
Anyway,
you should be.
You should be. Frank, your wife's cheating on you.
What?
He's like, no.
Next time you see Frank, your dog is gonna die tomorrow.
Oh gosh, no, that'd be horrible. I wouldn't want that information. I'd block all that off.
Frank,
too.
Your children are addicted to drugs.
Frank's got a really rough life.
Frank, there's a tornado that's gonna hit your house in 3 days. There's nothing you can do. Frank just ends up killing himself because Jimmy told him too much.
And then after he kills himself, I just say like, I made all that up. People believe anything you say.
Yes.
When you're omniscient.
We should keep going with this. Omniscience. Yeah.
I still think it'd be fun to just mess with the stock markets. You'd be like, you know what, guys? I'm going to tell you this right now. Apple is going to fall apart tomorrow. Like, all Apple, it's going to fall apart. People are just trading the stocks away. And then I buy all the stocks. Yep. No, wait. Is that how that stocks work?
Joking about that, and then you sell it all for billions on billions.
Yep. Richest person ever. This kind of ties into our next question a little bit, talking about superpowers, because we're always talking about superheroes and stuff. Fragadin asks, of all superhero films to have come out in the past decades, which hero and villain were portrayed overall in your mind the worst? Whether it was casting or the story that surrounded them. Hashtag Critical Podcast. So, Joe, worst hero and villain, either just cast or just like the story built around them. If you want, I can go first.
Worst hero ever.
Ooh, Joe! Look at you coming out of the gate.
Yeah. Not that Ryan Reynolds was a poor casting choice, but that story sucked. That movie was just CGI, horrible, etc. Poor Green Lantern, and Ryan Reynolds knows it, and he makes fun of it all the time. Worst villain ever shown, portrayed, etc. There's a couple rolling around in my head. Go over your worst hero, Jimmy, and then I'll hit my villain.
Okay, so I was thinking about this, and there aren't a lot of bad ones, and you already picked Green Lantern. And there are some that aren't that good, and this might make a lot of people angry. I don't know if you can call it a superhero, but I think that Peter Parker, as portrayed by Andrew Garfield, was the worst superhero-y type thing. And I'm going to tell you why, Joe. Peter Parker is someone that we should all be able to relate to. He's like that, down on his luck. He's not going to get the girl. He's just like this nerdy dude. And a lot of people who like this type of stuff, it's like, yeah, I can relate to him. When Andrew Garfield played Peter Parker, he was like this fashion model, skateboarder, like stalker type of guy who was just like everybody. He was like, how is he having problems at all? He was just like the cool kid before he even got, bitten by a spider. Whereas Tobey Maguire's incarnation is like spot on. And I'm thinking Tom Holland's going to be something like that too. Again, it's not really the superhero. I think him as Spider-Man himself was actually very good. I think it's maybe even better than Tobey Maguire's rendition. But I just think as that, and I know it's kind of a cop-out, I just couldn't think of a better hero that was worse. I mean, like, you have bad films like Daredevil and stuff that weren't that great, but it's like, Daredevil was like, not that bad himself. I can't, it's hard for me to think of one. And all the Marvel ones have been like so spot on with their casting and like the stories around them. I don't think it's been that bad. I guess maybe the other one that did bother me slightly was like Iron Man and Iron Man 3. He's very like, he's got the PTSD, which I thought was a kind of a cool twist, but I don't like seeing my Iron Man or my Tony Stark just being like a paranoid freak for a whole movie. So, yeah. Do you have a villain yet, Joe?
I have an idea.
Because if you don't, I've got 3 in the chamber.
Oh my
I know we're supposed to pick one.
Deliver one or two.
All right, we'll go kind of rapid succession. Mr. Freeze or Dr. Freeze was like Batman Forever, whatever that stupid one is with George Clooney. He's just like a bunch of one-liners, and he's not interesting. He's not very intelligent. He's not cool.
That's on the internet, Jimmy. Good pick.
That's on. Oh, people hate that.
He's ranked up there.
It's just like Mr. Freeze is supposed to be so cool. Again, I hate to do the pun. It's not supposed to be there, but he's just an interesting character. I love him. He needs more respect. Mandarin in Iron Man 3. What the heck were they thinking? Completely botched that character. They had such a cool thing going in. All the trailers and stuff was like Mandarin, this new modern take where he's kind of like a, Middle Eastern dictator. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, how are they going to make him have magic and stuff or whatever? And then they just like, nope, he's just an actor. And the real Mandarin is just some other dude. But apparently the real Mandarin is still out there. If anybody watched the, not the King's Speech. It was like All Hail the King. It was like this little Marvel short where they had Ben Kingsley's character. I think it's like Trevor Slattery or whatever his name is in prison. And the real Mandarin breaks into that prison. You don't see him, but his presence is there. And the third and the worst, even though he's not technically the one, like the senior version, Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor is horrendous. It's like they decided they hated Mark Zuckerberg or something, and they're like, let's do a Lex Luthor who's like of the modern age, and he's like this kind of internet playboy guy. Oh my goodness. And he's got these nervous tics, and it's like you probably wouldn't bring that guy out in public to speak at a party, because he's always just like, it's just like, just stop. He's not scary. He's not intimidating. He is not a match for Superman in any way. Stupid, boring, horrible. Get him out of here. That's what I say. I hope they murder him in the next movie. I don't think Jesse Eisenberg is a horrible character or just a actor. I just think he was cast really poorly. I think that's not his role. He's not the intimidating villain. That's just not him. It's like casting Michael Cera as Lex Luthor. Don't do it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like casting Michael Cera. That's what I always think of in my mind. Michael Rosenbaum, he ruined everybody else's Lex Luthor.
Well, at least a young Lex. I still want to see if he's like 60, I'd like to see what Michael Rosenbaum's like. Because I kind of want like a craggy, like kind of also really built
but
Lex.
At this point in time with Man of Steel and all that, I don't mind him being a little young.
I just want to be bulked up a little bit, because I know Lex is usually supposed to be kind of more of like a fit individual. So far, we've just gotten a bunch of like kind of scrawny people. It's like, come on, give me that fit Lex Luthor. Anyway, Joe, do you have your villain?
Yeah, Venom from Spider-Man 3.
Joe! I'm clapping. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's the only one I got, because I was going to talk about Lex Luthor, but yeah, Venom from Spider-Man 3. Nothing against Topher Grace, right?
Yeah.
Nothing against him, but
again, not bulked up enough.
yeah. I mean, first of all, Venom is like the creme de la creme of Spider-Man villains. When you think of Spider-Man, what do all fans want to see is the top tier guy, Venom.
Green Goblin. Oh, sorry, Venom.
Seriously, even over Green Goblin, I think Venom is like. Sorry.
It's because I think it's because Venom was popular when we were young, Joe. In the '90s, Venom I think really came to prominence, and I think that's why like a lot of people in our generation are like, "Yeah, Venom, let's do it!" Like, and I get that. He's cool.
Yeah, he's too great. So, and then the fact that they made him team up with Sandman and all that bogus bullcrap, stupid. Topher Grace, just not the right casting choice for Venom. He's not big enough. He's just not the right person for the role. And he's kind of more like a nerdy, wacky villain than he is like kind of a meathead, jockish type guy.
Yeah, which Venom can be that, or he can be a little bit of both. He can be like a big jockhead, but that like works at a science lab.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
version.
But more like a physical prowess type of guy.
Yeah.
And then there wasn't much of Venom. It was more of Topher Grace, screen time wise.
It just that's studio interference, Joe.
And it was basically like looking at a black Spider-Man.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's weird because early in the movie we already got that. You know what I mean? We already like Black Suit Spidey has been the whole time.
Exactly. So
I get from the design standpoint why they didn't go super bulky, just because they're like, all right, like if you just took the suit off and put it on someone else who is the same size as Peter in the real world, he wouldn't get gigantic. But if you had a big dude and then you put that on him, then it would be.
When I picture a Venom, I think of a guy, because this is real life, I think of a guy that's built more like The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to be physically intimidating when he's a human.
Exactly. And then when he gets a suit, it's like, this guy's going to beat the shit out of Spider-Man. Like, I'm scared for Spider-Man's life. You know, that's what you want. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Not to mention it makes Venom even scarier.
That's why I'm hoping for Spider-Man Amazing, or Spider-Man 2, whatever, when they do that. After Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, I just want it to be just Venom. Just do one movie on just
scrawny
Venom.
Little Spider-Man's gonna get his butt kicked.
Well, that's the thing, is like it's usually a scrawny little guy against this huge, just like hulking destroyer. Like, ugh. But good call, man. I will say this: they had such a good trailer. Well, I liked it. I remember seeing this in the theater. It's Topher Grace, and they're doing that scene in Spider-Man 3 where he's sitting in church and he's like kind of praying to get the power to kill Spider-Man, and I remember thinking, like, what the heck is this movie? Oh my gosh, like, this is so cool. But that's like, that's pretty much all of the motivation. He just, he just hates him because he showed that his pictures were fake. Yeah, just a missed opportunity. It's too bad. They almost made Venom in Spider-Man 3 a little bit more like a xenomorph, Joe, wouldn't you say? Kind of like a slimmed down, just like assassin-y type. He wasn't like a bruiser by any means. Like, he wasn't like going toe-to-toe.
Who? Sorry?
Really at any point. Venom. He's more like a xenomorph.
Yeah.
Kind of like attacking from the shadows.
I don't think he's like, like if there's a dark alley, I don't think he's the type that's just going to walk right up the middle of an alley and like, I'm going to punch the crap out of you. He's more of a surprise attack, elusive, sneaky.
Yeah.
He can elude Spider-Man's Spidey sense, all that good stuff. So.
Sure. Yeah. Joe, excellent choice. I really like that.
Venom.
Very good. I know you looked it up, but it was still good.
Characters ever.
Good pick. All right, Joe. We only have one more question this week. If you have any more, though, we'll tell you where to send them after this. But this is from Jorn Evers. Believe it or not, you just love this guy. He's so good to us. At GoCritical, at Lever_627. What's a video game genre that you love to play as a kid but dislike or even hate right now? #Critical Podcast. And by that, he was kind of explaining a little more. He said he kind of used to like platformers, kind of more like the Banjo-Kazooie or like Super Mario 64. But there's this new one called Yooka-Laylee, which is being made by the same Banjo-Kazooie people from a long time ago. And he's like, I'm just not into that thing anymore. Like, as a kid, I loved it. But now I'm just like, I don't want that. So is there any genre, Joe, for you where you're like, man, I loved it as a kid in a video game, and you're like, I just wouldn't take the time to play it now? Like, maybe I know for you, maybe like maybe RPGs if you're ever into them or something like that.
His example, like Spyro the Dragon or whatever.
Oh,
sure,
yeah, that's
when
what
I was
saying,
a kid, I used to play that a little bit. Or I played like the original Spider-Man game on PS1.
Yeah, dude. That one's got Venom in it, I think.
I think it might. I don't remember. That was so long ago. But like, yeah, those games are okay. But now with the technology and the way things are now, I'm so into the multiplayer stuff, like us playing Overwatch, etc. I like my racing games. The role-playing games, to me, I just don't get into as much anymore. So you're right. That was a good point to bring up. But yeah, I'm a gamer, but only to a certain extent. Some
Sure.
games I just really don't get into too much, and that's one of them, I guess. And I didn't get into video games until later in life. I just wasn't exposed to them too much early on when I was younger.
Yep.
So
we're still working on him, guys. We'll get him there. He'll be an RPG lover by the time we're done.
Yeah. How about you?
So for me, it's weird because I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I really liked like Diddy Kong Racing and Mario Kart 64, but I'm not really into racing games anymore unless they're wacky. Like,
But we're gonna get you Forza Horizon 3.
Only if someone makes a generous donation to the PayPal link down below.
Hey, guys, come on. You can imagine me and Jimmy, Drew going after it in the open world in our fast cars. Come on.
Gosh. It's just like, especially the ones that are like on closed tracks and things, Joe, for me are just so monotonous just because to me, it's just like the most... it's as you could do this in real life, and I get that it's hard to do. It's not like you can just be like, I'm just going to go race a Lamborghini today. Like, and that's cool because you love cars and stuff. But for me, who's like, I kind of can appreciate cars and like, bikes and stuff from a distance. Like, if I go into a video game world, I want to go into something fantastical. I want to go into something that I don't get in real world. Like, and, kind of change it up. And like Just Cause 3, I was playing the other night. Like, still really fun just because like I am an individual that is basically almost impervious to bullets to the most point, can blow things up, has a wingsuit that's just two flaps underneath my arms, and like a parachute and a grapple, like all that stuff. Like, you'd be dead in the first 2 seconds, but in this game I can just be the superhero kind of, and live outside of reality for a bit. So it seems like going forward for me, I just have kind of gotten away from the games that are a little more steeped in reality and more into the fantastical stuff. That's the stuff that gets me going. So yeah, I like colorful worlds too, and in racing games are usually not very colorful. That's why like the Horizon looks a little bit better to me, because it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing as opposed to like, this is like a pretty racetrack, but it's still a racetrack. It's just like like a gray road and white fences on the side.
Like I play a lot of Forza 5. I really get into the fact of how real it is. Like, it's more of a simulator than anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And
for sure.
The realism, the reaction of the cars, the track is very real looking, the surroundings, etc. The way the car reacts when it hits something or when you nudge another car. It's just too real for words. I mean, it's as real as you'll get to driving a Ferrari in the real world. Flat out. It's sure. Really cool. I enjoy that. I get competitive I get competitive when I'm like racing a friend or something online, or if I play online. I think that's a lot of fun. But I will admit, it is one of those types of games where I'll just pick it up to play for maybe a half hour just to, have a little fun for a half hour. Then I'll put it down and either play something else with you guys, or I'll, watch TV or do what I got to do that day. Just kind of a little kill time sort of thing if I'm just feeling it. So definitely. So I agree with you in the fact that they can get monotonous. I understand that.
Yeah. Well, Joe, you said you liked to kill time with that, and that kind of reminds me of a segment that we normally do.
Talking about Timekillers.
You bet your bottom dollar I am. You can't see me right now, but I'm pointing with one finger up to the sky. But it's not like straight up. Well, it's like an arm across my chest. Whatever.
About a 75, 80 degree angle. Wind at your back, heading east. About 20 miles an hour.
It's always the wind at your... Oh my gosh. This is what Joe likes to... In some of the shooters we'll play, he'll be like, yeah, so with this gun, you can usually get a kill with like 2 bullets. 1 bullet if the wind's at your back that day.
That is so true. I use it in such, like, some of the weirdest ways.
Oh, gosh. But I love him for it. Anyway, for those who might not know what Timekillers is, it's all the things we've been watching, we've been playing, we've been reading, all those types of things. So, Joe, do you have anything new on the docket as far as the old Timekillers goes?
Nope, just sticking with the same stuff as usual, so I won't even get into it. Just MX versus or MXGP2, and
I gotta work on that name.
Yeah, MX. Hey, something about that. So it's been my time killer for a few weeks now because it came out 3 weeks ago on a Friday or Thursday. So yeah. I'm loving it. Great simulator, realistic, kind of everything I said about Forza wrapped into this dirt bike game. The thing that bugs me, and I get that the MXGP series, which is like the European or World Series, if you will, all the Europeans and foreigners race it. I get it's popular and whatever, and I like it, and all the tracks are real tracks that they race, like over in Spain, Belgium, Netherlands, Mexico. There's one from the U.S., etc. But I would have loved to have seen them. It's fine they made this one. Maybe make another one. Only do the FIM or AMA series. Do the U.S. national circuit.
Sure.
Because I think that'd be really cool. Really cool.
Basically, what I'm hearing is that there's not enough Americanized explosions, and if they get some of those, I'm definitely in.
Yeah.
Get some NOS
well,
on
not
those
to mention
things.
it's all European gear. I mean, you do get some of the U.S. versions. Like they got a lot of like the UFO gear, the AXO stuff, some of the weird like Vemar helmets and things like that. I'm more into like the American gear, so I would have liked to seen some more gear choices. But it is what it is. It's really good, realistic, and I'm having a blast with it. But and then Game of Thrones, I'm almost to the end of. Well, I just started season 6. So I'll be at the end of that soon, and be waiting for the next season. I'm gonna watch that with my buddy Drew. So, anywho, what do you got for Time Killers, pal?
So obviously I saw Suicide Squad last week, and again, if you haven't checked out the review yet, please do. And if you want, share it with a friend. Spoiler free, by the way. I try to do my best to not spoil anything because there are some things in there that could definitely be potential spoilers, even though the trailers show quite a bit. Mm-hmm. The other thing I've been playing lately is I've had the chance, because I'm watching this house for a little bit. They have a Wii U there, and I don't have a Wii U. And I've been playing through Super Mario World, or Super Mario 3D World, or something like that. Pretty good game. Like, I gotta say that, it's pretty entertaining. It's just a lot of, like, kind of skilled timing and jumping and all that stuff that you expect from, like, an old Mario game, but in more of a 3D world. Not as good as, like, Super Mario 64, excuse me. But, yeah, it's been entertaining. You can play as, like, Mario or Luigi or Peach or Toad, and you can play with up to 4 people. I just haven't had anyone else to play with, so I've just been playing alone, just, like, going through and trying everybody out. But it's been a lot of fun. So, Suicide Squad again, and I'm still getting through Vikings Season 4 on Amazon. I know we've been talking about this here and there. It's alright. Kind of less and less about Vikings as the show goes on, weirdly enough. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all of it right now.
All right,
so
cool.
Joe, congratulations. Well, congratulations to everyone who's made it this far. You've done it. You're the best. Joe, if anybody wants to tweet us any questions, they just have to tweet the hashtag @CriticalPodcast. And if you want to tweet it to me, it's @GoCritical, capital G, capital C. If you want to tweet it to Joe, here's what you do. You put your phone directly in the toilet. No, just kidding. What?
Wow. It's my Twitter handle is @lever_627, and that's lever like beaver, only with an L.
Attaboy. He's done it. Stuck the landing.
Yeah,
you could be an Olympian
next time I'll just
for
let you
Twitter
say it,
handles.
'cause I'll forget again.
No, it's all right. You're getting there. You're doing really well. Also, I'm trying to think of anything else we need to mention. Again, thank you to This Is Dale for our theme music, and to Jorn Ebers again for our amazing artwork. And please do check out Hellmates. It is very good. I'm not just saying that. It really is. Check it out in the links down below, and let Jorn know what you think of it. Obviously, you'll see his Twitter handle pop up here, and just tweet at him. Tell him what you think. Tell him who your favorite character is, and you know what? tell him Go Critical sent you. Tell him that Jimmy and Joe sent it, because he'll know it's us, because I bother him all the time. I'm like, hey, Yarn, how's it going? I typed that out with my thumbs in midair, and that's how I sound when I'm typing like a tweet. I'm like, so if I tweet at you, that's exactly how I sound. Again, if you haven't yet checked out the rest of our stuff on our YouTube channel, if you're new here, welcome. Feel free to like, subscribe, share it with a friend. That's the biggest thing you can do for us. You can throw us a few bucks on PayPal if you want to. That'll help us grow the show. If you have any ideas or comments or questions about this particular episode, please voice them in the comments down below. But again, if you have one for the podcast, for next week's podcast, which we will be discussing the Suicide Squad, hopefully, please let us know there. And I think without any further ado, everyone, you take it easy, adapt and overcome. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.